Friday! Yay! Friday! August 17th, 2018 at 10:45 in the morning, and as soon as I started talking, the dog grumbled. Because she knows I'm going to be sitting here talking, and sad for her, but it is true. And we are producing still on the tiny tablet. We are anxiously awaiting the laptop that we ordered, and we're guaranteed a 2-day delivery. But if we ordered it on Tuesday, as we told you, and it's Friday, well, that's not 2 days, is it? And it can't happen soon enough because the port on the tablet that receives the USB plug for the transmitter receiver for the optical mouse is failing. Awesome. So last night while I was uploading or something, I was poking through my Twitter and I saw a tweet from the president regarding an American citizen who is being held in Turkey, and he's been incarcerated. He was incarcerated for quite a few months, 8, 9, 10 months, something like that, without being charged. And President Trump, the senator from Pastor Brunson's home state, Mike Pompeo, the Secretary of State, and many others have been working diligently on Pastor Brunson's behalf to get him released from Turkey. JaySekulow, one of the president's attorneys, who is also a chief counsel with the American Center for Law and Justice, which is an international organization with offices around the world, and they have been working on it diligently. So what did I see last night that actually got me riled up? Well, here's President Trump's tweet. I hope the print is clear. I'm going to read it anyway. Donald J. Trump at therealdonaldtrump.com, and my time indicator says 15 hours ago, so it was last night. Turkey has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They are now holding our wonderful Christian pastor, who I must now ask to represent our country as a great patriot, hostage. We will pay nothing for the release of an innocent man, but we are cutting back on Turkey. First of all, kudos to you, President Trump, for your clever play on words. Anybody who says that you're dumb really just doesn't read your tweets with an objective eye. It was very clever. But that's not what set my hair on fire. And you might wonder, well, okay, what did set your hair on fire? Well, let's take a look and see what set my hair on fire. So now we see me getting a little cranky. So this post is me, John 14, and I'm actually at John 1410 on Twitter. I'll explain that some other time. But you can always see me, there's my shepherd. And so the tweet, or the response, reads as follows. This advertisement for merchandise attached to an announcement by POTUS of a serious and perilous situation for Pastor Brunson is hubris to an astonishing degree and a disgusting display of anti-Christian arrogance. And I forwarded the whole mess to JaySekulow of the ACLJ and the ACLJ as an organization, to my good friend Scott Anthony, who's already retweeted it, and Royston Potter. And as you can see, because I included the @ sign, it automatically went to POTUS by reason of using him in the sentence. So you may be asking yourself, okay, I'm confused. Why is your hair on fire? Why is this such a big deal? Well, let's talk about it. So all the responses were from Q cult members, and they were expressing varying degrees of support for the president. But I did not see a single mention of Pastor Brunson. No prayers for Pastor Brunson. No, thank you for letting us know and keeping us informed. Nothing of that. This cult was clearly self-promoting, and that in this situation is unconscionable. So, what situation are we talking about for those who don't know? Okay, we are out on the web and we are using the tricky video capture software. Even though there's no video, there's no guarantee this software is going to work. But, we'll give it our best shot. So in my news feed this morning, Reuters was reporting what we already knew from President Trump yesterday. Turkish court rejects U.S. Pastor Brunson's appeal for release, and Haberturk is, I believe, the town that Pastor Brunson is jailed in. And Reuters tells us from their news base in Ankara, a Turkish court has rejected an appeal to release American Christian pastor Andrew Brunson from house arrest, broadcaster Haberturk said on Friday. Okay, so it's a news organization. And here is a picture of Pastor Brunson, threading his way through the press as he's leaving, apparently the hearing, or maybe when he was leaving jail. I'm not sure. This, the caption reads, Pastor Andrew Brunson reacts as he arrives at his home after being released from prison in Izmir, Turkey on July 25th, 2018. And this picture was taken by Demiron News. It looks like it's a division or an affiliate of Reuters, so it's a source for Reuters. Brunson, an evangelical pastor, resided in the coastal province of Izmir, is standing trial in Turkey over terrorism charges. His case now lies at the heart of a diplomatic crisis between Turkey and the United States that prompted a crash in Turkey's lira currency. The lira, which has lost some 40% of its value this year, weakened beyond 6.21 against the U.S. dollar after the news from 6.04 beforehand. And that report is by a man that you can read their name. In deference to not butchering their names, I'm not going to try, and I apologize. This is actually a pet peeve of mine, that people don't try to find out how to pronounce things in other languages, and here I am, chief hypocrite, at least on this report. Moving along. Oh, and I'm sorry, apparently Roy went live and we saw his notification, but let's just keep going. So this is from RT. It's the same picture, and their headline reads, Turkish court rejects U.S. pastor's appeal for release, and this was published this morning, although it's during the day, it looks like, for them in Russia. And what do they have to say about it? They actually give us a little fuller picture. A Turkish court has rejected appeal for release from U.S. pastor Andrew Brunson, who has been held since 2016, Haberturk reports. It comes after Washington placed sanctions on those who played a role in detaining him. Ankara has accused, and that's, the Turkish seat of government. It's a city, not a person, for those who don't know. Ankara has accused Brunson of being linked to the Gulen movement, which it says was responsible for the failed coup attempt in 2016. The U.S. government and human rights groups have disputed that claim. Brunson has now found himself in the middle of a diplomatic spat between the two countries, with the U.S. President Donald Trump authorizing new tariffs on steel and aluminum last week to put pressure on Ankara. That move caused the lira to reach a new all-time low, but prompted a response from Turkish President Erdogan, who said that his country is not crumbling, quote. He also accused foreign players of creating, quote, currency plots, close quote. On Thursday, Trump tweeted that the U.S. would pay nothing for the release of Brunson, but would punish Ankara if he is not released. Quote, Turkey has taken advantage of the United States for many years, Trump tweeted. They are now holding our wonderful Christian pastor, who I must now ask to represent our country as a great patriot hostage. We will pay nothing for the release of an innocent man, but we are cutting back on Turkey, close quote. Also on Thursday, the U.S. threatened new sanctions against Turkey as it continues to refuse to release Brunson. Quote, we have more that we're planning to do if they don't release him quickly, close quote, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin said. Erdogan made it clear last week that Washington has upset Ankara with its, quote, unilateralism and disrespect, close quote, and warned that Turkey would, quote, look for new friends and allies, close quote, if the U.S. refused to change course. Now, okay, so what do we have here? We have an American pastor who I know personally because I've been following this case, is an evangelical pastor. He has lived in that city where he's under house arrest now, which is actually a step up. He was previously in a Turkish prison, and we'll touch on that later, I promise. But he's been under house arrest since, I believe, April, when he was released from prison. They had a trial. Might have been May. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure it was May. So April they had a trial hearing, and it was postponed, which apparently is standard practice under these types of cases. You go in, the judge says, I don't want to talk about it, I need time, whatever, and you're immediately sent back to prison. SOP. So in May, through the efforts of various people who are working on this, including the senator attending that second hearing, I think it was May 17th of 2018.
Now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, JaySekulowLIVE.
Hey, welcome to the broadcast, everyone. The President speaking directly out on the plight of Pastor Andrew Brunson. I've spoken with the President. I've spoken this morning, just moments ago, with Pastor Andrew Brunson. Let me just say this. The President has issued this statement via Twitter. Turkey has taken advantage of the United States for many years. They are now holding our wonderful Christian pastor, whom I must now ask to represent our country, as a great patriot hostage. Understand what he said there. Great patriot hostage. We will pay nothing for the release of an innocent man, but we are cutting back on Turkey. Let me say this is our official statement as Pastor Brunson's lawyers. This is our official statement on this. In diplomacy, there are bumps in the road. Clearly, we have hit a speed bump. However, we remain hopeful for his expeditious release. Having said that, let me be clear, we fully support the President's unwillingness to pay ransom for a hostage to the Turkish government, Turkey being a NATO ally. So we are very clear in our resolve. The President is clear in his resolve. The President asked me to convey to Andrew Brunson that he must now call on him to be an American patriot. And Andrew Brunson told me this morning we are grateful for what the President is doing in trying to secure his release, as well as the rest of the administration. Very, very strong words from the President. We have more of that we'll play in a moment. Jordan, you've been handling a lot of these cases over many years now. This one, a NATO ally, but it is a speed bump, no question about it.
A NATO ally with an American hostage. I mean, that is the situation we are in now with Pastor Brunson's case, and I want to make that clear. This is a NATO ally holding an American citizen hostage. And we know now from President's tweet what Erdogan wanted. Cash, money. Not just an end to sanctions, but actual payment for it. And that's a hostage situation. That is not okay, we'll go back to negotiating the F-35s and the Russian missile defense system and all of that. No. He wanted cash. So the president's using the right terminology. When someone asks you for money to give a person back, that person is a hostage. It's like they have been kidnapped by a government and being held hostage for a ransom.
Let me tell you how serious it is. Secretary Mnuchin spoke directly to this yesterday. Here's what he said.
How are you doing with sanctions on Turkey? And as you know, we doubled up the tariffs on steel and aluminum. Aluminum will happen very shortly. How are you doing with sanctions, please?
Sir, we're doing well. As you know, we were very clear with our counterparts there, both Secretary Pompeo and myself, on the release of the pastor. We've put sanctions on several of their cabinet members. Working with you, we have more that we're planning to do if they don't release him quickly.
This is coming from Secretary Mnuchin. I was with the Secretary in Jerusalem not that long ago during the opening of the embassy. But let me be crystal clear. In diplomacy, there are speed bumps. We've hit one. We will see this return of this pastor. But the Turkish authorities need to understand. He's being held as a hostage now. He's a patriot. The country's not going to be intimidated. Pastor's not going to be intimidated. And the NATO ally needs to be rethinking its position. We'll take your calls and comments on all this at 1-800-684-3110. We come back from the break. 1-800-684-3110. Back for more in a moment. All right, so Facebook and Periscope, let me encourage you, let us encourage you to share this with your friend. We got a lot of people watching on our social media platforms right now. So if everybody on would simply share it with your friends, a lot more people will be engaged in this. Dan, what are you hearing in Washington? Obviously, I've had direct conversations with the president and with Brunson this morning.
Yeah, both sides of the aisle are going to support this move, Jay. I mean, it's very simple. If you pay ransom for hostages, more Americans will be taken. We've taken that position very consistently across previous cases that we've had, and I think Pastor Brunson would agree with that as well. Look, Jay, I hear the president's statement of we will pay nothing. I agree with it, but I would flip the table on it. Turkey's about ready to pay a very high price. We know that the sanctions that have started to come down, the president has a whole wave of authority that Secretary Mnuchin referenced, everything from economic to diplomatic to security. We know that the Senate just sent to the president, and the president signed that 90-day delay in the delivery of the F-35s. Jay, of course, that can be extended when that comes down the line. Look, there are more waves of sanctions and leverage points that the United States can influence than we really even have time to discuss. So I think Turkey has only began to fill the squeeze if they don't come around.
Let me run this to Andy Economo. I mean, the president's statements are strong. You've studied Turkey for a long time. You've been there. We've written a book about it. What's your sense of where we are? We've hit a speed bump.
Well, I think that this may be the beginning of Turkey's movement to a non-aligned nation status and complete departure from the West, and that's the thing that alarms me. You know, Turkey has been trying to have accession to the EU for a long time. That has not happened. Now we have this terrible...
You think they really wanted that?
I think they did. I really do. But, I mean, the reality is that European Turkey is Istanbul, period. The rest of it is Asia, and we have to face that. But I think that this is it's an unfortunate step for the Turks.
All right. We're coming back on, taking your calls, 800-684-3110.
Okay, we're back at the desk, and those were members of the ACLJ on the JaySekulowLIVE broadcast at noon, 5 days a week. You can find it on Twitter, on Periscope, via Twitter, and Facebook. You heard Jay Sekulow, and then Jordan Sekulow, his son, then Than Bennett, and finally Andy Economo giving us an update on the president's tweet as well as the government's position with regard to payment for hostages. I'll leave you links to the Halieus Media blurb we published last night as well as links to the ACLJ's Twitter page where you can review the whole broadcast. It's an hour long. I recommend you do it because they go into great detail, more than I could here. And with that, I need to get the dog out and back and get stuff done before UPS comes. Have a great day. Thanks for visiting with us. We really appreciate it.